There are moments that feel eternal. A stadium holding its breath. The split second before a hero makes his move. For Senzo Meyiwa, these moments were his life's work. He was a man who stood between the hopes of a nation and the crushing reality of defeat. A captain. A goalkeeper. A guardian. But what happens when the hero leaves the field? When the roar of 100,000 fans fades into the quiet hum of a suburban Sunday night? What happens when the guardian, celebrated by millions, finds himself in a small room with only a handful of people he trusts?
Every mystery has a story, but not every story has an answer. Every week, we uncover the chilling cases that have haunted investigators for years. Unsolved disappearances, cold cases, and the darkest secrets waiting to be discovered. Are you ready to uncover the truth? Join us, if you dare. The Unsolved Chronicles.
Some truths are not found under the glare of stadium lights, but in the shadows of a place called home. On October 26, 2014, Senzo Meyiwa, a man who faced down the fiercest strikers in the world, faced his final opponent. The mystery is not just who pulled the trigger. It's untangling the story told by the 7 people who were the only witnesses to a hero's fall. It's a story that, even a decade later, South Africa cannot agree upon. A story that begins with a gunshot and fractures into 1,000 questions. Before the headlines, before the hashtags, there was Senzo Robert Meyiwa. Born in Umlotsi, a township on the outskirts of Durban, his talent was undeniable from a young age. He was agile, charismatic, and fearless. He rose through the ranks to become the star goalkeeper and captain for one of the country's most beloved football clubs, the Orlando Pirates. By 2014, he was at the peak of his powers, also captaining the South African national team, Bafana Bafana. He was a national icon, a symbol of hope and excellence. Sunday, October 26, 2014, started like any other triumphant day. Senzo had just led the Orlando Pirates to a 4-1 victory. He was on top of the world. After the match, he drove to a house in Vosloorus, a township east of Johannesburg. It was the home of his girlfriend, the popular singer Kelly Khumalo. Inside the house that evening were 8 adults and 2 children. There was Senzo and Kelly. Kelly's sister, Zandile, and her boyfriend, Longwe Twala. Kelly's mother, Gladness Khumalo. And 2 of Senzo's closest friends, Thakazisi Twala and Tumalo Medlala. It was a relaxed gathering among friends and family. Then, the official story begins. The news spread like a shockwave. First through social media, then through official news channels. South Africa was plunged into a state of national mourning. How could a hero, a man who brought so much joy to millions, be taken so violently, so randomly, for a cell phone? The South African Police Service, or SAPS, immediately launched a massive manhunt. The National Police Commissioner at the time, Raya Faiga, held a press conference, promising swift justice. A substantial reward was offered for any information leading to an arrest. The investigation, named Operation Cessifile, which means, "We have died," was under immense pressure from a grieving public. A few days later, on October 31, police announced a breakthrough. They had arrested a man named Zamiko Mbatha, identified from a police sketch based on descriptions from the witnesses inside the house. The nation breathed a collective, tentative sigh of relief. It seemed the official story, a tragic but straightforward robbery gone wrong, was holding up. But the relief was short-lived. Less than 2 weeks later, all charges against Mbatha were dropped. The evidence was deemed insufficient. The case against him crumbled, and he was released. The investigation was back at square one. And then, silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks into years. The public's grief hardened into frustration, and then into suspicion. The hashtag Justice for Senzo Meyiwa became a constant, painful reminder of a promise unkept. How could a crime with 7 eyewitnesses remain unsolved? Whispers and rumors began to fill the void left by the official investigation, questioning the very foundation of the initial story. The narrative of a simple botched robbery was starting to fray at the edges, revealing something far more complex and unsettling underneath. Finally, in October 2020, 6 years after the murder, a bombshell announcement. The police had arrested 5 new suspects: Musical Kilwa Sabia, Bangani Sandison Tanzi, Thobasai Prince Mkyub, Thakazasini Mafiza, and Sifasokuln Kanintoli. They were charged with murder, attempted murder, robbery with aggravating circumstances, and possession of firearms and ammunition. Their trial began in April 2022. But instead of bringing clarity, it opened a Pandora's box of conflicting narratives, stunning courtroom revelations, and a central, explosive question: were these 5 men the real culprits, or were they merely scapegoats for a truth far closer to home? The trial itself would become the new center of the mystery, a stage where the very facts of the case were put on trial. Theories and oddities. When a case remains unsolved for so long, the official story becomes just one of several possibilities. In the murder of Senzo Meyiwa, the facts are few, but the oddities are many. The courtroom became a theater for competing realities, each built on a foundation of circumstantial evidence, strange behavior, and forensic questions. 3 dominant theories have emerged from the fog. Theory 1, the botched robbery. The first theory is the one the world was given on day 1, a random, tragic home invasion. In this version of events, 2 men, intending to rob the house, entered and were surprised to find it full of people. Senzo Meyiwa, ever the protector, allegedly intervened to defend his girlfriend and friends. A struggle ensued over the firearm, and in the chaos, the gun discharged, fatally wounding him. The panicked robbers then fled, perhaps with a single cell phone, leaving a scene of devastation behind. The supporting evidence for this is, primarily, the initial testimony of the 7 eyewitnesses in the house. For years, they all maintained this version of events publicly and to the police. It's the simplest explanation, and in crime, the simplest answer is often the correct one. Townships in South Africa do face high rates of violent crime, making a home invasion plausible. The 5 men eventually arrested in 2020 were charged on the premise that they were these intruders. But the oddities are significant. Why would robbers target a house with so many people inside, increasing their risk? If it was a robbery, why was so little of value taken? The witnesses' accounts, when later scrutinized in court, revealed inconsistencies. They differed on key details, such as the number of intruders. Some said 2, one said 1, what they were wearing, and the exact sequence of events. Furthermore, one of the first police officers on the scene, Sergeant Thabo Moja, later testified that he was not told he was attending a murder scene and that he believed the scene could have been contaminated before he arrived. This detail has led many to question whether the scene was preserved as it should have been, or if the story was as straightforward as it seemed. Theory 2, the contract killing. The second theory takes the robbery narrative and twists it. It suggests the intruders were not random criminals. They were assassins, and Senzo Meyiwa was their specific target. The robbery was merely a performance, a disguise to mask the true motive, a premeditated hit. This theory gained traction because of Senzo's high profile and the seemingly senseless nature of the crime. Killing a national hero for a phone felt disproportionate to many. This line of speculation suggests that someone, for reasons unknown, wanted Senzo dead and hired professionals to do the job. The motive could be anything from a personal vendetta to a professional jealousy or a dispute the public knows nothing about. Proponents of this theory point to the efficiency of the act: 1 shot, 1 kill, and a clean getaway in the initial chaos. It feels less like a panicked robbery and more like a planned execution. However, this theory runs into a major obstacle: the absence of a client or a clear motive. No evidence has ever publicly surfaced to suggest who would have ordered such a hit or why. Senzo was widely loved, and while his personal life had complexities, nothing has ever pointed to a conflict so severe it would warrant assassination. The 5 men on trial have been linked to other criminal activities, which the state argues makes them plausible hitmen, but the defense maintains there is no concrete proof linking them to a contract on Meyiwa. Without a who or a why, the contract killing theory remains a compelling but purely speculative ghost in the machine, a narrative that explains the strangeness of the crime without being able to identify its source. Theory 3, the cover-up. The third and most explosive theory abandons the idea of external intruders altogether. It posits that the fatal shot was fired accidentally or during a heated argument inside the house, by someone present. The robbery, in this scenario, was a story fabricated in the moments after the tragedy, a collective lie told out of panic and fear to conceal the truth. This theory isn't just public rumor, it's rooted in a shocking official document. During the trial, it was revealed that the police had maintained a second docket, a separate, parallel investigation. This docket, opened in 2019, recommended charging the people who were in the house with murder and defeating the ends of justice. It suggests an entirely different version of events, one where an altercation between the occupants led to the firearm being discharged. The existence of this second docket, pursued by one set of investigators while another focused on the robbery suspects, created chaos in the courtroom. Several oddities lend this theory a disturbing weight. Defense lawyers have highlighted the testimony that Kelly Kumalo's mother allegedly used mops and cloths to clean the house before police had finished processing the scene. There are claims of a gun, belonging to one of the occupants, being present. Most puzzling is the behavior of Longwi Twala, who, according to some testimony, allegedly received a phone call, had a brief argument, and left the house just before the gunshot was heard. The contradictory statements from the witnesses over the years are seen by proponents of this theory not as the result of trauma, but as the strain of maintaining a complex lie. The defense for the 5 accused men has built its entire case around this theory, arguing their clients are scapegoats for a crime committed and covered up by the witnesses. The people in the house have vehemently denied these allegations, maintaining their innocence and the robbery story. Case status plus call to action. As of today, the murder of Senzo Meyiwa remains, in the eyes of many, unsolved. The trial of the 5 accused men has been fraught with delays and dramatic twists, including a complete restart with a new judge. The state continues to prosecute them as the intruders who carried out a botched robbery. The defense continues to argue that the real culprits were inside the house, pointing to the second docket as proof of a cover-up. The legal battle rages on, a public spectacle of 2 irreconcilable truths. The South African Police Service officially considers the case active and in court. The files are not gathering dust anymore, they are being dissected daily under the glare of public scrutiny. Yet, for a nation that has waited a decade for answers, clarity feels further away than ever. The story is now a labyrinth of maybes and what-ifs. A botched robbery, a contract killing, or a terrible secret among friends. What detail lingers in your mind? Which theory feels closest to the truth, or is there another possibility hidden in the shadows? Share your respectful thoughts below. Sometimes, the coldest cases can thaw with fresh eyes and a collective demand for justice. But as we debate the theories and analyze the facts, one thing must not be forgotten. In memory of Senzo Robert Meyiwa, not a headline, but a life. Not a mystery to solve, but a person to remember.